prior to the start of our legislative session this evening, immediately followed by our work session. So I will call our meeting to order. Mr. Truesdale will lead us in roll call. The invocation this evening will be led by Vice President Green, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Rodriguez. We will then open the floor for courtesy of the floor, followed by approval of minutes. That will be for the legislative session that occurred on October 10th, 2023. Chair Rawls, in her absence, we will not have a committee report on the work session of October 17th, 2023. We will then move to ordinances for first reading. We have one bill, Bill 7 of 2023, which will move to the Administration Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment or ordinances for final passage. We will then move to resolutions. We have two, Resolution 75 of 2023, which will move to the Budget and Finance Committee, and Resolution 76 of 2023, which will move to the Public Safety Committee. Is there any old business, council members? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Any new business? Okay, and then we will adjourn. So the time is 6:26 p.m. I would like to officially call our legislative session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Lawson,
Here.
Mr. Majors,
Here.
Ms. Rose, Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Ms. Bowers.
Present. Please note for the meeting record that Councilwoman Rawls is excused this evening. Also, please note that Harrisburg City Council participated in an executive session prior to the start of our legislative session, so that's why we're a little delayed in getting started. The invocation this evening will be led by Vice President Green.
Thank you, President Bowers. I would just like for us to take a moment of silence and give our thoughts and prayers to all those in the city and around the world that just need a little support. Thank you. I'd also like to remind everyone that daylight savings time is this coming Sunday, so don't forget to change your clocks.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. All rise for the pledge.
Thank you, Vice President Green and Councilman Rodriguez. We will now move to courtesy of the floor. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You'll have 2 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper, and I'll begin to my right. Seeing, hearing no one. Anyone in the middle?
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Susan Wilson. I live at 522 Wiccanisco Street. I have handed you bills that have been created by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It is the Pennsylvania Code from 2010, Title 75 for Vehicles, Chapter 33, Rules of the Road in General, 3353, Prohibitions in Specified Places. I woke up on October the 18th to find that they were painting yellow signs, or actually the curbs outside of my house. And it's kind of alarming when you come out and you find that better than 50% of your parking spaces are no longer in existence. I live in a block where there are 9 houses, and since painting those lines on the curbs, we are now down to 4. In that block with those 9 houses, there are at least 12 cars. So directly in front of my home, you can only park 2 cars. Across the street, you can only park 2 cars. So it's pretty evident that whoever created this bill, that they do not live in urban districts. What we need to do here is we need to, and I know it wasn't done, there was no courtesy in terms of communications within the community to tell us this was going to be done. I did speak to our solicitor, and of course, I also spoke to the individual that actually had the young man and the young woman working, that they didn't need to give notice. Well, I take great exception to that, considering the fact that I served on council as well. In this community, when we have activities going on in the neighborhood such as this, there should be communications within the neighborhoods. I had every neighbor in a 3-block radius knock on my door and say, what are we going to do? I said, I'm going to council. I'm going to reach out to Patty Kim. I'm going to reach out to Senator DeSanto. And I've also talked to Mr. West, and I've talked to the mayor. We have got to come up with a better solution for urban parking. What you will do is you will deplete home ownership. People will pack up and want to leave the city. I have 2 cars. I live on a corner house. I have to juggle my cars back and forth just to find a parking space. I've been there for 40 years. I have no intentions on moving. I do have intentions on making sure this gets changed, though. It is imperative that we sit down and have an engineering study, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, area by area. So if up the street from me, there happens to be 5 houses that actually have 6 cars. There are now 3 parking spaces, 2 that are in front of the old St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and 1 where the woman happens to be handicapped is the only space on the right-hand side of the street in front of her house. It's not fair to the neighborhood. So as we go through this process, and I understand why we're doing it, it's about safety. It's about making sure people aren't parked at stop signs and fire hydrants. But we have got to have a little common sense here in terms of what the setback requirements really are. Now, like I said, the people at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania probably don't care or give a hoot about this city. I do. I'm not moving. And so I think we need to work on a better solution. So I gave all of you a copy of that bill so that way you'd understand what the state statute is as it relates to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but it should not be applied to urban districts at all, because those individuals happen to have drive ports, they have parking garages, they have gravel roads, and they usually are not driving up in the front of their houses. Now, if I can park on the sidewalk, then guess what? My hat's off to all of you, because I will start doing that, because that's what's happening around our city, and it destroys our neighborhoods. So I'm asking you, and I've asked Mr. West, and I told him I will come up with ideas, because I've given him a few in terms of setbacks and some of the things that we need to do. But we've got to do better than this. We just can't go through and paint stuff and then tell people you got to park 2 and 3 blocks from their house. So what do I need to do? Start carrying something on me so that I can protect myself? If I was 25 years old, it might be something different. I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. And I don't want to have to feel threatened walking down the street in order to get to my house. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. That's all. I had to come here tonight because everybody's knocked on my door. Nobody wants to say anything because they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid that their retribution. They're afraid people aren't going to respond. But this is a part of what you do. This is a part of what this administration has to do, and it's a part of what we have to do collectively as a community to ensure that there's ample parking spaces and that we make sure that everyone's safe. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my understanding that there are some sound issues on channel 20. Okay, well, as usual, I apologize to anyone that is trying to watch our meeting on Channel 20. If you do have computer access and internet availability close by, I'd recommend visiting the city's YouTube channel. Okay. Just want to make sure we don't have any other public comment. To my left, is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing no one, we will move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have approval of minutes for the legislative session that occurred on October 10th, 2023. Council members, are there any revisions to those minutes? Okay, seeing and hearing no one, the minutes stand approved. As I mentioned earlier, we will skip our reports of committee in Chair Rawls' absence. We will move to ordinances for first reading. We have one, Bill 7 of 2023. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Bill 7, 2023, an ordinance amending the administrative code of the codified ordinances of the City of Harrisburg to authorize the mayor and the city controller to provide joint written designations for limited purpose digital signatories to execute agreements and related documents on behalf of the City of Harrisburg when a sole digital signer is mandated.
Thank you. Bill 7 of 2023 will move to the Administration Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment or ordinances for final passage. We will move to resolutions. Resolution 75 of 2023. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 75, 2023, a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2023 operations-related budget reallocation.
Thank you. Resolution 75 of 2023 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Resolution 76 of 2023. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 76, 2023, a resolution approving, adopting, and placing into immediate effect the Dauphin County 2023 Emergency Operations Plan as the official emergency operations plan for the City of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Resolution 76 of 2023 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Council members, is there any old business for discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Any new business? Okay, seeing and hearing none, the time is 6:37 p.m. Our legislative session will adjourn. Okay, if it's okay with everyone, I'd like to just transition right into our work session. So the time is 6:37 p.m. I would like to call our work session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Lawson,
Here.
Mr. Majors,
Here.
Ms. Rose, Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Ms. Bowers.
Present. Please note for this meeting record as well that Councilwoman Rawls is excused. We will begin with our committee business. The Administration Committee has one bill for discussion this evening. Bill 7 of 2023. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record again?
Bill 7, 2023, an ordinance amending the administrative code of the codified ordinances of the City of Harrisburg to authorize the mayor and the city controller to provide joint written designations for limited purpose digital signatories to execute agreements and related documents on behalf of the City of Harrisburg when a sole digital signer is mandated.
Thank you. Solicitor Gover, will you discuss this bill?
I will. This bill came as a recommendation out of our office. If you may have noticed over the last few years, you've had a number of resolutions authorizing simply the completion of a form by the mayor controller. The reason that is because the city charter, the optional third-class city charter law that we're under, require the mayor and controller to sign all contracts. That state law was passed in 1957. This does not eliminate that obligation. It tries to bring and wed the reality of modern technology. Because right now, a director cannot sign a contract. They can't do any of those things. Neither can my office can, any of the people requested to. It has to be the mayor and controller unless there's a designation. This authorizes to recognize, one, digital signatures have been the law of the land since 1999. And both federally and state. It's been had different versions, but they became lawful for electronic transactions that long ago. This allows, with a signed individual declaration for the mayor and the controller each to do what you've authorized them now, to sign the grant contract or agreement for grant number X, to sign the binding contract for software under contract X, only because in those circumstances, there's no other way to execute the document. We're running into more and more where a physical signature is not even possible, because of technology. So it's a very much just trying to deal with our old laws and bring them into reality in a way that makes it more efficient for the council, for the executive branch to get these things done, and they can keep moving in a more efficient manner.
Thank you. I just wanted to read, this is the Administrative Code, Part 3, 2-300, Administrative Offices, Chapter 2-307, Department of Administration, and the section that is added is Section 2-307.5, subsection C, titled Digital Signatures. So the subsection C2 reads that individuals eligible to be jointly designated as a signatory shall be limited to the business administrator, city engineer, grants manager, city solicitor, or director of any department.
And that's deliberate language. It's not a bureau director. We tried to reflect what PennDOT had that we found in their styling of how to do this. They say we either need an authorized, statutory authorized signer or a resolution. So what started us down the path of resolution several years ago was that PennDOT structure. So this turns them into authorized statutory signers. They will be required for each and every one to have a document that shows the authorization was given.
Okay. Okay, so, and this will take effect immediately?
Under the code that we're under, laws take effect 20 days after the bill is first approved by council and then signed by the mayor. So that if the council approves it, mayor signs the bill into law. 20 days after that is when it takes effect.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I'll open the floor to my colleagues. I'll begin to my left with Councilman Rodriguez. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Just more of a point of information, Neil. So this would just be kind of like a check and balance for every agreement?
Right. So right now, it basically takes what already happens when it comes to council with a resolution. It kind of delays what is a perfunctory thing by at least a month on each of them, and creates that same process. But you're authorizing them to continue with the process you've seen all this time without having to come back to council every time.
Streamline it. Yep. Awesome. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
Yeah, just for my edification, so why is it that right now our current ordinances authorizing signatories, why isn't that good enough?
So what it does right now is it doesn't authorize sole signers, which is what the technology is demanding. So literally, we can have a contract that the council's approved, a contract that's funded, and the optional third-class city charter law and the city charter require all contracts to be executed by the mayor and the controller. So
Okay.
that's what the requirement is. So we are trying to marry that requirement by them, which is what those resolutions that come to you are. They both sign the authorization, jointly designating who's signing on both of their behalfs, because only one person can sign for the computer. Or
So-
we can't close, or we can't have the contract.
Okay. So are there any, I mean, I think the question I'm asking is more of a technological question. Is our technology set up so that, if it's just the controller that wants to sign, because there's a reason we need two people. There's a reason our statute had two people, right?
Right.
So is there some?
And you still will, because they both will sign the document, the same two people, to authorize the business administrator to sign contract X. So the two of them will still be signing each and every one of them, but just on the form that authorizes and designates who's signing. So because there literally is nothing for them to sign, they can't both sign the electronic document, because it only takes one signature. And I can't, if only one of them signs, it's not a valid contract. So this is what makes it a valid contract. The two of them sign a document and designate the same person to sign it on their behalf. And then that person logs in and executes for the city. So it's like DocuSign, you see a lot of that.
Yeah.
It took us a year because Philadelphia had a system our system would not adjust with. We could not marry the two computer systems. So that was like $250,000 we were doing a refund that we could not get for a year because of that problem.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Majors, any questions?
No questions, but I'm glad we're coming in to deal with how technology is just requiring us as we move into these signatures. So no issues. Thank you. Thank you, President Powers.
Thank you. Vice President Green, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lawson, any questions?
Thank you, President Powers. The only question, and I believe you've already answered it, Mr. Grover, but so right now with our technology, that's what's holding us back from basically just setting it up so that we can just have the system just automatically go, like a DocuSign, go from one email to the next to the designated signer and then off.
So it's not our technology, it's our law that says we're not allowed to use it because it requires two signatures. That's our problem. The law says to make a contract valid, they both have to sign, the controller and the mayor, and the technology has moved past that.
Right. My only question is, like, when I use a DocuSign, I can have, several people sign at once. It would just kind of go from one to the next.
Yeah, we don't have that software here yet.
Gotcha.
That'd be great to have.
Okay.
But what we do get is we're basically stuck with whatever the vendor's software is, and that can be a whole variety of things. We have the biggest issue with the Commonwealth. That's who does it the most often, where we have to have one line signed.
Okay.
One signer.
All right. And then you said we still have the checks and balances in place because we're getting authorization before that designated signee is signing anyways.
Right. So basically, it'll become a clerical function for, just like we circulate all contracts, we will circulate whatever has digital signatures with that contract for the two of them to sign. That's how, right now, our office circulates that around from the mayor to the controller back to our office. And this will get added to that and automatically then have their designee listed in that, so.
Right, but and then basically takes a 1 month process and turns it into an afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, comments, or concerns, I'd like to move to add Bill 7 of 2023 to our next legislative session agenda. This concludes the work of the Administration Committee. We will now move to the Budget and Finance Committee. I will defer to our Chair, Vice President Green.
Thank you, President Bowers. For the Budget and Finance Committee, we will be discussing Resolution 75 of 2023, a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2023 operations-related budget reallocation. I'll give the administration some time to get up here. Good evening, gentlemen. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, and then whenever you're ready, you can take on over.
Dan Hartman, Business Administrator. Brian McCutcheon, Accounting Manager for the city.
Timothy Brooks, the Budget Manager. And I'll get started if everybody's okay. All right. Well, before you is the fifth proposed budget reallocation for 2023. Because we have 5 exhibits, we decided to break it down between myself and Mr. McCutcheon, where I'll cover exhibits A through C, and Mr. McCutcheon will cover exhibits D and E. Going to Exhibit A, the first item on here, footnote A alludes to a proposed amount of $219,000 for anticipated overtime need for the police department. Moving down to another part of Exhibit A, and I'm just going to kind of move down because we got quite a bit to cover. The second item on Exhibit A is, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, thank you. Second item on Exhibit A will allude to the remaining need for medical claims. We budgeted for a certain amount, and it seems that our medical claims are going to come in beyond that. Therefore, we're looking to reallocate another $3 million for those medical needs. And the final thing in Exhibit A alludes to additional operating funding for the Harrisburg Redevelopment Authority, and that comes in at around $95,500. Footnote B really is supporting. It's the supporting items, the supporting revenue items for the items above for the overtime, medical, and the operating funds for HRA.
Tim, you wouldn't mind zooming out on the
Absolutely.
spreadsheet so they can see all columns?
There we go. Footnote C on Exhibit A alludes to the related current year construction in progress, the activity we've established here for the State Street project that's going on currently. We wanted to make sure that we had the money appropriated to do the actions and things that we needed for that project. If you'd like me to go on to Exhibit B, I feel I didn't have any questions.
Let's see, does anyone have any questions regarding the first items spoke about? And that would be the police overtime pay, the medical, and then grant distribution to local units?
Yes, and then also the State Street project activity.
All right, seeing none, you can move on to Exhibit B.
All right. Exhibit B, this is within the State Liquid Fuels Fund, and this here is just a transfer between our snow control line and our traffic lights line. Ultimately, what happened here, we need to make sure that we're able to cover the PPL bills for our traffic lights throughout the city for the remainder of the year. So we're looking to appropriate $40,000 to the power traffic lights line from our snow control line. If we have any questions about that, yes. Thank you. I'll zoom out as well so everyone can see the information there.
Oh. Yeah, so so it looks like we are, we have $1,337 left available currently, correct?
Yes.
And that's still with 2 months left. So is there a reason why we are, in terms of how we budgeted our numbers for lights, while we need the additional 40,000? So was it we under budgeted how much we thought we were going to pay? Was it a rate issue this year, or what led to the difference?
Rates have gone up.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think I can add to Councilman Majors that there might be a little bit of an excess built into that, just to be sure that we don't have to come back and ask again, just on the conservative side.
Okay.
Seeing and hearing no questions, I'll move along to Exhibit C. Move that here. Exhibit C, footnote A, alludes to the purchase of two recycling trucks. Ultimately, we had the money in the two different lines, and we wanted to combine it to one specific line, moving the money from an equipment other to the equipment vehicle line, so we can do the transaction all from that one line, in the amount of $30,000. The transfer amount is going to be $30,741. And then footnote B alludes to another transfer for the dome relocation project. Ultimately, PennDOT, the widening project that's occurring down 83, or will be occurring over the next 4 years. PennDOT purchased a bunch of land. A part of the land that they purchased was a part of our public works facility, and it was the salt dome, I believe. We have to relocate that salt dome. A part of the money that we received for that, we're reappropriating to the public works, miscellaneous contracted services, to then relocate the salt dome to its new location.
And I just want to make a footnote. This is my oversight. I apologize. It's not the salt dome. We have two domes. One stores large equipment over at Public Works Building, which is different than salt. That's what this is. That's what PennDOT has torn down. We had a building to keep our equipment in. It's important that we have it back up for the winter if we can. That has lights and all those things in it. So that we'll correct that footnote error. That was just my oversight when we brought it down to you.
And that actually concludes Exhibit C. I'll pass it along to Mr. McCutcheon and go forward with Exhibits D and E.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Again, I appreciate your time with these budget adjustment reallocation requests. Exhibit D, the main part of this tab relates to the FNB Field Stadium upgrade project. In the midsection of this tab is the Harrisburg Senators Fund, and with year-end approaching, the general feel on what to expect, combination of expenditures and more heavily on what could potentially be encumbered by the end of the year is $3.8 million as an estimate for getting that project kicked off prior to the end of this year. So the way to accommodate that, the $3.8 million is the capital expenditure. There is over $600,000 of beginning of year cash, which is the first line there where it says estimated cash carryover. $2.8 million is to be sourced in by the general fund as an interfund transfer. And then the difference that spills out at the end, at $379,000, that's actually covered by the two rent payments made by the Senators this year for the stadium rent. So that's how we cover the $3.8 million estimate. Up above, the $2.8 I mentioned, which is to come from the general fund. When you look at that 2.8, how do we get that? We utilize fund balance from the general fund of $1 million, and there are several revenue items that have outperformed budget even to this time of the year, namely what you're seeing up there, sale of assets, stop loss, insurance reimbursement for loss. And as a way of funding that $2.8 million, those are the pieces for that. And also the lessening of the need for the State Street project for work discontinuing at this time of the year lessens the need for the interfund transfer that was budgeted for the capital projects fund. So that's in essence taking that budget, moving it out of interfund to capital projects and moving it to interfund for the Senators Fund. And then down below, the capital projects fund is just there because if we do what we're recommending, up above lessening the transfer from the general fund, we need to reflect that accordingly down below for the capital projects fund. So again, this is all about the stadium upgrade project.
Any questions regarding this?
Just one, I'm sorry if I missed it. The federal grant line, what funds are we transferring from that?
Yes, that's actually, it's funds that came from the American Rescue Plan Act fund. It's the $200,000 that was part of that ordinance that was transferred into the general fund for administrative handling of all the programs. So properly, we're just reflecting that, increasing the budget because the $990,000 relates to the upgrade for the fire radios.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, all right. Last exhibit, Exhibit E. Very straightforward. This is all about the Broad Street Market. And what's already been recently submitted to the insurance carrier is a sworn statement that documents the number you're seeing up there for insurance reimbursement, the $4.4 million. That has been submitted, and again, expectation is that would be received within this budget year, and that would go toward the 3 line items below that. We've already incurred the first 2 line items for other rentals and supplies relate to what's been incurred for the temporary structure for the vendors that were displaced. And then the remaining piece is, again, what on the capital expenditure side related to the actual restoration of the property, of the building. So those 3 lines, expense lines, they sum to that total of the expected insurance reimbursement.
I will add to that, that 4.4 million is a partial. That's not a final. It is to get us kick-started so we can go with architect and construction manager to start getting that work underway. So this is not a final payment or anything. This was more seed money for us to continue the work towards getting it rehabilitated.
Any questions regarding this?
I do, Madam Vice President. Mr. McCutcheon, just briefly, when you speak of the temporary structure, you're referring to the tent and like all of the power and things like that, just to keep that up and running for the vendors?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Of course. Anyone else? Any questions regarding this proposed budget reallocation? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to recommend this be moved to our next legislative agenda. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation tonight and all of the detail.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the work of the Public Safety Committee. I'll defer to our chair, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we will be speaking about Resolution 76 of 2023. Mr. Truesdale, do you mind reading Resolution 76?
Resolution 76, 2023, a resolution approving, adopting, and placing into immediate effect the Dauphin County 2023 Emergency Operations Plan as the official emergency operations plan for the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you, good sir. I see we have Chief Enderline. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening.
Likewise. Would you like to give an overhaul of Resolution 76, 2023, please?
Sure. As you'll recall, you had, and there was some confusion. This is the emergency operations plan. We had the hazard mitigation plan that came down the council not that long ago. In years past, I'm echoing, I believe. In years past, we have had the mayor sign a letter adopting the emergency operations plan. And the county accepted that as coming from a strong mayor form of government, that was acceptable. However, a deeper dive into Title 35, which is the overarching state title that we get the authorization to do emergency management through, doesn't recognize that, and we needed the councilmatic resolution to be able to adopt the county plan.
Thank you for that. I'll open it up for questions. I'll start on my far right. Councilman Lawson, any questions for the chief?
Not at this time. No, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Vice President?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam President?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Councilman West Majors?
No questions. Very familiar with how these plans work.
Awesome. Thank you. And I have no questions either. I'd put a motion forth to, Councilwoman Daniels.
Yeah, if you don't mind just kind of giving a quick summary of what's involved, just for a general
Sure.
overview.
So what the emergency operations plan does, it sets forth how we operate in an emergency. So we'll go back to Winter Storm Jonas. This is the framework of how we deal with those emergencies, from procuring materials, site area disaster declarations, utilizing the county, the state resources and things like that, and sets out those plans. It also allows us to build a database of folks that we can use for different sorts of equipment. So backhoes, how many backhoes does the city of Harrisburg have? Manages that for us. But then it also, combined with the county plan, we're able to see if we need additional backhoes. Maybe we can get that locally instead of going to, the state or whatever. And it sets forth that framework of how we manage those small-scale disasters to the large-scale disasters such as a flood or as I mentioned, Winter Storm Jonas.
Thank you.
And there is one housekeeping matter, just for your information. This is under the law, for reasons that I have no idea, they treat this and the hazard mitigation plan separately. So this is going to come to council every 2 years. The hazard plan comes every 5. So you'll see this more frequently.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Any further questions from council? Okay, hearing none, I move to have this added to our next legislative session. And that concludes the business of the Public Safety Committee. I turn it back over to Madam President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We will now open the floor for public comment. Same housekeeping notes. If you could please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live. You'll have 2 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper. I'll begin to my right. Is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, anyone in the middle? Seeing and hearing no one, anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one, the time is 7:08 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.